Everybody, thanks for joining me on the That Old Panda channel. I'm Panda. So, another video. We're actually going to do something a little different and a little bit fun this time. As of right now, I actually finished Death Stranding 2 as of recently, finally. A lot of stuff at work, a lot of other priorities that caught up that just caused me to take so long to play the game. But I'm amped and immensely excited to talk about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about not just Death Stranding 2, kind of the events that led to it and everything like that, but I'm also going to review my older Wild Theories video that I will include also here so that you can see it and click it and you can watch it yourself if you want to. And we're going to compare my Wild Theories on what actually happened with Death Stranding 2 and talk about those specific details. Now, this is a big warning, and I'm putting it across the thumbnail, I'm putting the description, putting it here. Spoiler alert for those that have not played Death Stranding 2. If you have not played Death Stranding 2, stop the video now, play it, go all the way through it, listen to it. If you don't care, but you're interested in spoilers and story-driven parts of Death Stranding 2, stick around and watch it. And we'll actually go through some of the specifics and everything that comes with Death Stranding 2, because there's a lot to unpack here and a lot to talk about. So, with that being said, spoiler alert if you haven't played it, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, spoiler alert if you just don't know much about Death Stranding, because it is a fun, exciting, and enjoyable experience, especially if you love the way of gaming goes for this game, in the sense of story-driven Hideo Kojima-ness, and he knows how to tell a story. Whether or not you like it is entirely up to you. If you're the biggest fan of Metal Gear Solid series and you want to get to something in the future with Death Stranding and Death Stranding 2, I encourage you to do so. The actual gameplay is very similar. It's, in my opinion, the greatest game he's ever made. Well, these Death Stranding games are amazing, but I will always hold Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots as probably my most favorite game of all time. And in my opinion, probably Kojima's favorite or best game of all time. With just the story-driven elements, with Old Snake, all the different gameplay elements that you have incorporated with it, just the length and everything, and there's also some similarities there. So anyway, lots to talk about here. So let's go ahead and bring up some of my previous Wild Theories and takes in that previous video, and we'll go through each one by one, and then I'll talk about kind of some of the parts that I love about Death Stranding 2, some of the things that wasn't the best, and then some of the things that I look forward to in number 3, if number 3 is ever made. So let's get to it.
Interesting enough, it does show the years of 1 and 2, so it looks like it's going to be about 2.5 years that take place for this particular sequence, which I bet there's going to be some time jumps along the way when we kind of connect these two trailers.
So that's about half right. Actually, Death Stranding 2 takes place about 11 months after the first Death Stranding occurs. So this is when Sam is actually hiding with Lou in his shelter in Mexico, in the intro of Death Stranding 2, as you kind of move forward. So kind of have that a little half right in my assumption there.
This is the coffin that Higgs is in that actually is revealed later on, and it's also revealed in the other trailer from these different types of soldiers. Now keep in mind, I'm not sure if these soldiers or these folks are actually the same cybernetics that pop up and guard him and kind of do his bidding that ends up getting slaughtered by the big huge thing with the sword, but who knows, it could be.
Yes, and that was kind of already insinuated and revealed in the trailer. There are the ghost mechs or the extremists that are also with Higgs. So that's about half right. And of course, with the ghost mech, the big one in particular, it actually ends up being Deadman later, which I think I have a theory about. We talking about that guy and that entity later, but Yeah, I'd say partial credit there. So we'll keep going forward.
And you know what? It probably is from the first one. And then, of course, Fragile. And we're seeing her actually all somewhat restored and whatnot. Because remember from the first game, she actually ran through into the time fall and aged everything from, basically uh, neck to toe. But she doesn't look that way, at least here, at least that we could see here. But she's playing with Luz, so I'm thinking probably at the end of the first one, if you've ever played it, obviously Fragile is watching Lou, and I assume that either there's some relationship, maybe there could be more of a friendship, maybe more than that with Sam Porter Bridges, and he's probably out, I would assume, doing deliveries, probably the thing that he still does most, even though he hates it. He's known for it. He's got a reputation for it. So I think he's going to be. That's why he's missing in this particular trailer.
Funny enough, that I'm gonna say that I was wrong on that one. Yes, I was right in the fact that in this sequence, Fragile is watching Lou in the beginning of the game when Sam is kind of bringing in the fold for Drawbridge and helping out APAC as well. And my assumption was that he's living out there with Fragile, which turned out to not be the case. They don't really develop a relationship like actually let me let me bring that back. They technically do have a relationship throughout the entire thing, and it's teased. It's like the Mulder and Scully kind of dynamic, but they don't really kind of complete that and really show their true colors until towards the end of Death Stranding 2. And then, of course, we find out the ultimate demise of Fragile. But in this case, that's correct. Sam is out and about, and Fragile is watching Lou. It turns out I was also wrong there. Yes, that is Lou and Fragile together, and she is watching Lou, and that's when all the incidents occurs. But they don't have a relationship quite yet. They're still kind of friends at this point.
Go back to it, and it looks like they're hearing the disturbances, but the pod is no longer being used because he doesn't need BB to detect things, and of course he has dooms, so he could detect BTs when he's doing it. So it's just looks like it's just a furniture piece in the sense, which is really cool, by the way.
It's cool, and I want one. And you can only get one in Japan with the little fake, using it as kind of a fake, like, sort of aquarium. But yes, that was correct as a correct observation that I did, apparently.
So the other thing to keep in mind too, when it reveals like Drawbridge, the new ship that kind of moves around, this is not it. This has got to be a delivery kind of point or a delivery. Oh, shoot, what's
The word I'm looking for is
one of
shelter.
those delivery houses that he goes to with the console? I don't know why I can't think of it off the top of my head, but basically a shelter that's under the ground.
There you go. Said it.
In this point, because this is not an underwater ship or anything like that, like the Drawbridge.
Correct. This is Sam's shelter, so I got that part right.
I think it's Higgs or I can't tell if that's Mads Mikkelsen's voice or I think it's Higgs or Troy Baker.
It is Higgs. It's Troy Baker's voice.
It's Higgs. So
It's
we
definitely
already know that
not Mads
Cliffy's not going to show up. Hideo Kojima already mentioned that he's not in this particular game, at least.
And I was correct there, yeah. And Kojima did go on record to say Cliff is not going to show up back in Death Stranding 2. It would have been interesting if there was a cameo somehow, but I don't know how you write that back into it after being completely destroyed at this point. So I got that right.
So before we move further with this, there's two things obviously we're seeing here. We're seeing humans, not the cybernetic soldiers here. Now, that's not 100% confirmed that, it's not Higgs's troops, but I think we're kind of being led a little bit, misdirection. I don't think these are the guys that are being led by Higgs. I think it's being led by somebody else, and I think there's more evidence to the contrary in that, but we'll look at it more. But I think this entire sequence is this is my theory craft, and we'll get to part of it. But my assumption here is that this is where we see the end of Lou, where Lou is no longer of a normal. It's going to break my heart too if that's the case, but I have a strong belief that this is a sequence where we see the end of Lou becoming a BT.
So I got that kind of completely wrong in most cases. I had some good theories though, based on kind of the little niblets that I was given. So yes, this is true. This is the end of Lou. Lou does get taken out, obviously, by Higgs, as well as Fragile. Fragile, of course, suffers from jump shock. She ends up jumping in a separate place than Lou does, but when she jumps, she kind of ends up dying. And of course, again, spoiler alert if you're unaware, hopefully by now you're not this far about spoilers because we're going in deep now. Um, she's technically dead on the beach, but she is alive in the real world. And because the times are changing, she actually has a very limited life on the world. And it isn't until they actually jump towards the last beach where the last stranding starts to take place is when she gets her memories back to understand that she's about to die. And she tells pretty much everybody that who tells Sam that at the end. I was also completely wrong. I gave the writers a bit more credit and Kojima a little more credit of deception. And I tend to do that very much, and I know a lot of people do. But yeah, it was indeed Higgs, and it was indeed his people. He does admit that as well. So, totally wrong there.
I meant it when I said I understand how you feel. But if you hold on to the sadness, it will weigh you down like an anchor.
So here's what I'm thinking. It's a bit more theoretical, but as you see here, Fragile is in different clothing. She's a little bit more positive and confident and everything. So I think what happens is, on that first portion when Lou ends up being transferred over, they separate. And either Sam finds Lou and still kind of getting his way around, and Fragile separates to try to do her own thing because I'm sure that causes a big disruption. But I think in that time period, whatever that time jump is, she's creating a crew. She's bringing the drawbridge thing together, and that is going to be the new thing that's going to be part of the gameplay mechanic for this. That's what I'm thinking. Because I think this part here is when Fragile comes out and shows Sam, hey, it's time for you to hit the road. Let's start connecting the world, because that's where I think we're going with connections. Obviously, we're not on the same continent. And in the Hideo tube with Hideo Kojima, he even mentions that they're on different continents now. So I think this is when she elicits Sam's help. They reconnect as kind of a family unit per se, but also for them to get the band together basically and connect the world. That's what I'm thinking this part is. So I think some time has passed from Lou's transition over to Lou being in that beach and being a BT in this particular world in the pod. And yeah, this is when Fragile's convincing Sam at this point.
Turns out I was kind of right on most of that. So yeah, there is a time jump after Lou's death, and basically Fragile comes back and tries to convince him to get back and to start connecting continents, which in this case, for Death Stranding 2, it is Mexico and Australia are the two continents. I thought there was going to be more continents we were going to go across, but we didn't. Just fine. Honestly, I think it's great that they kept it very, small and specific instead of making it just a huge, grandiose world like it is. But yeah, no, after Lou's death, obviously, Sam takes it really hard. He starts drinking. His room and shelter is trashed, and it still is at the end of the game. It isn't until things, hopefully, till things like shape up, but you never really do get to see it again. And then, yes, that's true. Fragile is picking Sam up. She eventually picks up Rainey, and Rainey is the reason why that she's back to her youthful self again because of the turning back the time fall, which is really great. So I was actually correct on this one, shockingly enough. I keep going to this theory that, and the way that it kind of threw me off was this scene here when it was showing Lou back into the BB pod, is that you were going to have a gameplay mechanic of a Lou as a BT in your pod, helping you out and giving you more powers and things. I think that would have been great to include, but I'm fine with it not turning out that way. It might have been a little morbid there. Might be a little bit, kind of rough on that one. And also, it takes away a plot point. So I understand why they didn't go with that. But yeah, no, I was correct on that part. So we're going to watch this one part here pretty closely because it's crazy how much I was led astray when
Hideo Kojima even mentioned in the Hideo Tube, if you've watched that, this is actually Ellie Fanning's character, who they're keeping super secret. There's a chance that, and people were theorizing that this is someone that's like, basically the person that was Lou in the beginning, and it's not, obviously. My theory is, and I'll touch on it some more as we kind of go through. My theory is that this is Mama's child, but we'll keep watching.
So, my wild theory that I thought was going to be great and a wonderful story element to it was, obviously this was going to be Mama's kiddo from that we separated in the first game, and that was going to be her daughter that would show up on the beach and he would somehow rescue. It would have been really cool if that happened. Absolutely didn't. And then the thing that I thought, I was like, well, everyone's theorizing that it's an essence of Lou, was 100% right, which was interesting that was the case. We'll get to specifics on that one. That one takes a little bit more to digest, especially with some of the information that you're provided in the game, but it's intense, to say the least.
So on the Hideo Tube YouTube channel in the video, Hideo Kojima does mention that this substance is a timefall-like substance when he was referring and talking about this, which is cool. I think, because he didn't really say, yes, this is timefall, I think this is necrosis, because obviously it's a tar-like looking thing.
Yeah, I got that way wrong, but they didn't really explain that a whole lot, actually. The suction cups there, with kind of the liquid, that looks like that's related to an octopus or sea type of creature. They didn't really touch on that, or at least I didn't find any part of the game that did. So that was way wrong, obviously, but we don't really know much about it other than it's just timefall based on the evidence here. So,
character, which again, I'm theorizing that this is Mama's child, that they were able to rescue her from a beach and bring this person back from their beach into the real world so that they could bring it back to life. Now,
oh, I got that so wrong. I really wanted it to happen, and it actually elicited some pretty good conversation pieces. No, so just to, again, spoiler alert of the highest degree, because this is very much in the end. Obviously, it is revealed that Elle Fanning's, I don't know why I keep saying Ellie, because it's Elle Fanning. Her character is known as Tomorrow, ends up being revealed as the form of Lou from the beach when Lou was teleported in the beginning with Fragile. And basically, the same genes of Lou ends up being her, and she ends up being Chrysalid, which causes her to actually grow up and change form in order to survive on the beach itself and be rescued, which is ultimately who ends up being. Tomorrow ends up being an extinction entity, which is the same thing as Amelie. It has the ability to cause the last stranding to occur, just like in the last Death Stranding, and Higgs is trying to force her to do that. Funny enough, of course, that ends up being his demise because it's Higgs. Nobody listens to Higgs. As she turns into an oversized Lou, stomps and eats him and kills him, and then turns back with the help of Amelie into Tomorrow. Ends up being Sam's daughter, or also Lou, and carrying on the Porter business from this point. So, completely wrong on there. I am not good at just dumbing this down a bit more. I like to, obviously, I'm not a story writer, but that would have been really cool for some of those things. But at the same time, I understand that exotic story connections like that and theories are not prevalent in all of these work of art. So I love how the story ended up. Definitely no shade, and I definitely enjoyed it. But yeah, no, I ended up being a little more eccentric in my theory crafting for Death Stranding, which it's Death Stranding, so there's a lot going on here.
Now, this little thing does have a name. I forget what it was off the top of my head. What was interesting, though, in the Hideo tube, when Hideo Kojima was talking about this, is he mentioned this little device is not only has the ability to transport and teleport through the chiral network, but also be able to go through time. So, who knows?
So that's one and the same. So I got that wrong again. This is the same DHV Magellan that everyone teleports through. And I think I even theory craft that they're able to, go through certain things in time, and that's why they're all gray. It turns out that they're going through the tar with the DHV Magellan. I think that was the only thing I got close to right. But because of that, it was able to go through these different beaches. That's actually the catalyst for what you're able to do to go through time as well when he meant by that statement. That might have been more of a translation error, I think, in the interview, but that's essentially where that kind of explanation comes from.
So the interesting thing is the color palette, and I've heard everyone say it, and even my brother-in-law mentioned it when they saw this, because I thought it was just kind of like, a weird kind of color thing that's happening. I think this is a method to eradicate and make sure there's no BT essence or time fall that can cause problems. I think it's a field underneath the drawbridge being able to do it, but I haven't heard really much about it. I can't imagine this would be something they just forgot to do during.
Yeah, no, I wasn't wrong there. That was definitely intentional, and yeah, that faint look and color is because of the fact they're going through the tars. I guess it's kind of right. The ship is to protect you from all of the terrible, awful things going through the tar. But no, it's not a field or anything. So again, I exaggerated a bit on the theory to what the reality is. So I should have been a little bit more simplistic in my theories.
I'm guessing.
No. As I told you, Drawbridge is a civilian outfit.
Yes, so that means with Die Hard Man not even making an appearance or anything, I think even though, Drawbridge is a civilian outfit, they separate from the UCA because of something. Either the UCA gets destroyed again by another terrorist attack, maybe they just have a falling out, because usually the good of the government usually in the first one, or good of the organization in the first one, sometimes falters in the second. So maybe they.
Yeah, so I'll give myself partial credit there. Obviously, you're working for APAC during Death Stranding in the events of it, which ends up being one of a subplot that Die Hardman does indeed show up. He ends up imitating Charlie the whole time, who you assume is just having his familiar voice to make you feel better, but it turns out it really is Die Hardman as he shows back up. And secretly, because Drawbridge created the Cupids that APAC used through Mama, or her sister, actually had a subplot of espionage of Drawbridge actually taking those connections and basically hacking them back, preventing the APAC overtaking of the world and all the different beaches and universes connected together to prevent or actually to encourage evolution. But because Drawbridge did that and Die Hardman did that, they prevented that from happening. So props to that subplot, which I thought was very interesting.
We want you to help us bring the world together.
So software, hardware, obviously the still the same stuff is being done. I'm sure that'll start first, and then it'll kind of go different. They'll probably evolve the technology. I haven't seen, the handcuffs, which is the comm links. They're not part of the Cairo network, so this might be a different one.
That's right. It is. It's the rings now. They didn't actually show that really, except you can see it right there on her gloves. They use the ring instead of the handcuffs as a different form of technology to connect on the chiral network itself instead of the handcuffs. I liked the handcuffs. I actually want a lit up pair of handcuffs, but I've yet to see one really.
Entails. This is another director, and I forget who it was. I actually am not familiar with this particular director. Everybody thought it was Timothy Chalamet, I think is his name, as the celebrity that was voicing him, but that was wrong. This is another director. At least Hideo Kojima confirmed it, and Hideo too. That which basically goes to show we're still going to get a lot of probably celebrities. We're going to get a lot of different names, probably a lot of different famous people as porters and.
Yeah, I wasn't wrong on that one. Yeah, and Dollman obviously is the character there with another director. He is fantastic. He ends up being your BB basically in Death Stranding 2 as he asks him to join and lighten him for it. And we do get a lot of celebrities. Even Conan makes another appearance. Iron Mouse, all those famous folks. Even Churches is in there. Wood Kid, the guy who does the main theme, and the pizza chef. Pizza chef is my favorite porter of this whole thing. It's the greatest. So makes sense there.
I think the Magellan is going to be obviously the main organization that runs with the Drawbridge, a civilian outfit for this. As you can see, we got floating carriers, just like in the first one. He's carried them along the sand dunes. What's also cool, and I won't talk during these different parts, but apparently there's going to be flooding, weather activity that will change the terrain as you're going through it.
All that came to pass as well on the sand dunes. It's all Australia. I know that I kind of expanded my thoughts in what I thought was going to be more continents. But no, it just ends up being, Australia and the country of Mexico. So, yes and no. Went a little too far in my theories versus being simplistic, which is what I need to do.
He called himself a ghost, but
We found a way back from the beach just so he could kill us.
See, this is why I think Higgs perished and died. Because I mean, he was humiliated and beaten up and kind of taken care of, but he wasn't. I don't know. I don't think he was fully confirmed killed. Maybe he was. It's been a bit since I've seen the ending, but Higgs is obviously back, and I think it's part of that process where they're able to bring these people back from the beach and onto the world. And
So yeah, I got that part wrong as well. They never do really talk about, or at least I need to start playing kind of the new game plus mode a bit more. Obviously, I could probably Google it, but in the main story of everything, he didn't really go into detail of how he came back. Obviously, he's his former self, and he hops around all these different places and gets all these different powers like he does. But yeah, there's no process where we saved him from a coffin or a cocoon that from the beach in order to make him back into what he is. So I got that part definitely wrong, even though that was a theory I was hoping was going by it.
Hey, buddy. Are you just another soulless little husk, huh?
Let go of me! Pathetic guitarist. Where's the rest of your band?
so interesting enough, in Hideotube, Kojima mentioned that even though there's a lot of questions being asked, he couldn't say anything. But anyway, let's back up a little bit. So he mentions that he's just kind of fruits of the labor to say, throughout the everywhere. I think his organization is more like a PMC group a little bit, almost like a private military company, but not really. It's probably more like mercenaries or anything, just causing violence and guns and movement and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, that's not completely wrong. They're extremists, so I got that partially right for sure.
So I think that's what more or less he's doing, just to cause a bit more chaos and chaotic, and maybe that's why he looks a little bit like a mimer Joker. But he also mentions his little statement saying that he's another like soulless, I want to say soulless puppet, meat puppet type of thing. But Kojima's very firm in Hideotube that he couldn't really talk about it. So this little puppet here, I think, is not the only of its kind. He mentions you're going to find out how this puppet became to be, which I think there's more. I think there's another set of either puppets or set of kind of life forms that do that and have that from their different beaches, maybe.
Yeah, so half right. I haven't seen. There's not a whole. Well, okay. Let's take that back. When we start getting to the part where it shows the ghost mech, the big samurai actually does become a soulless meat puppet, and that's Dead Man. Dead Man comes back from the dead using his dead body to basically perform all them functions and everything, and he ends up taking over. Obviously, Heartman, when Heartman goes and maps out all the beaches like he does every 15 minutes, he takes over as well. So technically that is true. Dollman's origin is also revealed in the game. It's actually a nice little side mission where you talk to him and he talks about his introduction. There's a CG movie of the whole thing. His wife perishes from a explosion from a BT. Obviously, a body went in necrosis and ended up dying. He ends up taking his daughter, which he admits was not a good idea, to go back to the place where she was in the hospital. And basically, they go to the gazer that they know for sure is the BT for his wife's and her mother. They end up, of course, trying to instill memories that the gazer has, which they do not, and causes them to actually get pulled into the tar and into the pits through the beaches. And it turns out that he himself and his daughter end up dying. But what happens is his cot ends up going into the doll and the doll ends up getting, which is why he's called Doll Man, and he ends up getting rescued by Fragile and pulled into her crew and system, and ultimately assists with Sam throughout the game, which is great. He's a great character. I'm actually very happy he got involved as much as he did, as much as you just feel a little bit of a void when you're not having BB around at all, which we'll get to at the end. So we're almost done here. We'll keep moving forward.
And Higgs and his group. I really do think it was another organization. I'm assuming.
Nope, I got that completely wrong. It was totally Higgs, and it was totally his org.
So that guy obviously teleported around somehow. Either he inhabited some of the soldiers there or something to get to where he was, but he moved around there. So that'll be interesting to see. And again, there couldn't be any confirmation from Kojima on this. He was pretty tight-lipped about it when he was watching this with everyone else.
Yep, he's dead man. He's totally dead man and comes back after you're kind of trained and told and informed that he's completely dead and did not make it. You even see his dead body, and dead man is going around with a corpse, and it's revealed towards the end.
See, it's the same dolphin toy. So I think Lou, as a BT, still kind of goes around. Not necessarily.
Nope, I was way wrong. He doesn't. He doesn't haunt. It's comes back in tomorrow, so I got that wrong.
So that's Troy Baker as Higgs's character talking. And we assume it's probably Sam because it's focused on him. I think they're actually going to team up to a bigger, more awful, terrible thing.
Nope, I was way wrong. Doesn't team up whatsoever. He does team up, however, Higgs's org does team up in a sense unknowingly with APAC, as APAC basically tries to connect all the beaches together to push the evolution and uses Higgs as a tool to bring the weapons higher, to bring higher technology, which means higher security and higher takeover for APAC. So, yeah, no, Higgs never teamed up with Sam and the orc. He never did end up being that way. He ended up being the big baddie in addition to APAC and Death Stranding 2 for sure, to try to bring that last Stranding. So again, I went too far. It's just need to be simplistic.
In the dark. About everything.
And again, I think that is Lou on his own beach, where Sam is able to either transport either through the help of Fragile or something to be able to go see Lou. He is a repatriarch, so maybe he could go back and forth depending. But I think he's going to go to his own beach to be able to see Lou.
I wish that was the case, but no, that was not the case whatsoever. That sequence actually is interesting because that is a dream sequence that he does during the last Stranding fight with Higgs. And that was something to kind of mislead, I think, everybody to think that you were going to get Lou back when it turns out it's just tomorrow. Because you go through the whole going over the dunes thing again in Mexico with Lou while it's cold, and it ends up being just Sam imagining it. And through his memories through the last Stranding battle at the end.
Find the strength to carry on. And you have.
And it's called On the Beach. I mean, come on.
Now it's time to finish the journey, Sam.
So the thing to point that out is in the game itself, that statement was used in order to bring Sam in during the isolation chapter to come to the realization that BB was indeed dead and not in the BB pod that he carries around, because he carries around a BB pod that looks like BB is in there when in actuality BB is dead, and it's just an empty pod the whole time. Just Sam doesn't realize it until Fragile drops that knowledge bomb onto him. All right, well, there you have it. I got a lot of that wrong. There was a lot of misdirection, a lot of different ways that Kojima definitely incited the trailers and things of that nature, and he continues to do an excellent job of misdirection. If you know Kojima's work and the way he does all of his trailers, he's that way. I thought the game was excellent. I'm very biased, obviously. I do love Kojima's work. Death Stranding 2, though, is quite a fantastic sequel to the first one. And the emotional impact just gets better and better as you're invested in the stories with these characters and how broad it is. The part that does really hit you really hard as well towards the end of the game, you're not carrying around that BB pod anymore. You're only carrying around Dollman, but you're not hearing Lou laughing, smiling. You got so used to the fact that Lou was tagging along and actually, enjoying, you going fast and anything, and you had to make sure that Lou was good so that you could help detect BTs. Now that that's no longer the case, it just feels a little voidish. It feels a little empty, and it definitely is felt that way throughout. The combat, the different ways of deliveries, all the additional optional areas to go to is fantastic. The challenges, the different parts of the gameplay mechanics were great. You got high level, obviously, oxygen masks. You got oxygen masks and high altitude things that you have to take care of when it comes to delivering packages. You're cold, you're warm, and then of course all of the combat with all the different weapons and things is just so much to the depth of the game. Not just traversing, but the warfare and the gameplay, which is what makes it exceptional. The other thing too, the ending shows tomorrow with a porter suit and being in front of a another gate that was in the second one. So, what my advice and my thoughts about a third one is, it would be great to see a third one. Kojima has went on record to say he's got more stories to tell, and he's got more of a continuation on his little USB drive, um, in case they want to continue the story, with Death Stranding 3 with Kojima Productions. However, he did mention he's going to do his other projects. You've got Fizzant, you've got OD, which unfortunately the main character they had for that, Odo, is no longer with us, which sucks because that would have been great. I think of a game with him as an actor, he's a really good one. Um, so they're going to have to continue to move forward with that. And they're going to have to see what they're going to do. Maybe plans will change, though, for Death Stranding 3. Maybe not. But if you're on, by now, if you've been watching all this, you obviously don't care about the spoilers and the information for the game. But if this still piques your interest and you haven't played it yet, but you do like the things that you're hearing with all the spoilers included, give it a shot. It's a really fun game, especially if you like the first one. So anyway, that's it. I'm terrible at theory crafting, obviously. So, but this was a nice little review and introduction for discussing some content for Death Stranding 2. I look forward to, if and when it ever ports over to PC, to stream a bit more for folks. I'm probably going to keep playing it on the PS5 while I have it. Plus, I've got some other things coming up soon. We've got the Death Stranding 2. Yes, this is a package that comes in with it. Backbone, that was limited to about 4,000 of these made. I will be doing a review on this with some updated phone hardware and all the great things with it. So look forward to that. And I will catch you in the next video. So keep it locked, follow, subscribe, all the usual stuff. And we'll talk soon. Have a good one.